Hi, Scritty here, ultimatedemon2.com, and I'm just reviewing something I've gone through before, and I'm using some old slides which I used about 6 or 8 months ago. And this is sort of an introduction to the process that I use to use the best SEO tools, SEO automation tools, as content management tools rather than link creation tools. Obviously, there is a fair bit of overlap between the two. With content management, you want to create links. With link creation, you need content. It's a matter of emphasis, but you'll also see as we go through these slides why it's really important and the changes you can make to convert from one to the other and how the same tools can be used. Before I start, I'll say one more thing, is that I've contacted the people at Edwinsoft and Joe and Arib and the developers of SE Nuke in particular with the idea of turning their tools or giving their tools facets of more content management rather than link creation, and maybe changing the emphasis and some features they could add. Now, I don't flatter myself to think they're going to take any great notice of me. I'm just, another internet marketer. But it's the way the tide seems to be turning, and it's easy to sit back and think that everybody must be saying the same thing, and perhaps nobody is, and it's just, I felt better just to write it down and send it along. So we're going to go through these slides quickly. I'm going to only take 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so as soon as Web 2 and the idea of multimedia and sites that allowed user participation really hit the internet in the early 2000s, it didn't take very long for link rings to become an effective way that people realized to promote their own money site, which is here in the middle. Each one of these would have a link. Each one of these links in the link ring would be built normally on a free site before WordPress.com and other ones. That there were sites before that you'd get an account or a profile on a free site, and you'd put some content on there with a link that pointed to your money site. You try and put 2 links on, in fact, one that pointed to your money site and another one that pointed to the next node in the chain. Visually, it's very obvious who the beneficiary site is here. It's the red money site in the middle. But Google also worked that out eventually. I mean, it took them nearly 7 years, but they did eventually work out to follow the links and see who the beneficiary was and realise that this was aggressive self-promotion, which they don't like. Obvious self-promotion, aggressive self-promotion. This was replaced by a slightly more obtuse thing we called either the link pyramid or the link tree. I'll just explain the difference between those two, and that is that a pyramid and tree, the only difference is the way you visualize it. The pyramid has your site at the top and the rest flowing down, and the tree has your site at the bottom, sort of the roots, and the rest going up. Other than that, it's exactly the same. It's just a different way to visualize exactly the same structure. So you'd have your money site, high quality links here, supposedly ones with high PR, decent authority, lesser quality links here, and you may even have a third level above for indexing purposes. There's very little purpose for more than a third tier other than for indexing, because you lose all the link juice by the time you go down those 2 chains anyway. Now, that was great. That seemed to work. Again, it had several years where it was very good. But what sort of happened was a lot in SEO forgotten that Google have this ability to work out who the beneficiary site is. They could do it there, and they could also do it here. They worked out that this was also obvious self-promotion. They'd follow the chain down. So a money site, you might create 15 here, 15 of these first tier links, and each one of those might have 15 links pointing into it, and each one of those may have 100 pings or forum blasts or something you did in Zromo back in the day. But it still worked it out eventually, and it was obvious self-promotion. Traditional link structures have 3 problems, and they are huge problems. I sometimes look at the stuff I've written in the past, the amount of hyperbole I use, and think, oh, that's a bit much, but they are huge problems. They're obviously made for self-promotion, and they're obviously transparently self-promotional, and we now know that Google can work out who the beneficiary is. Google does not like aggressive self-promotion. It's got no problem with marketing. It would be stupid for one company to have that's marketing to have a problem with another company that's marketing, but the way it's completely aggressive, it involves a lot of spam, it involves creating tens of thousands of links that add no value. It doesn't like those, and it does tend to bring down the penguin hammer. They're easy to spot for Google's bots. They played follow the links in 2009 with link rings, and they could do the same in 2013 and 14 with link pyramids. It's now getting on for the middle of 2014, and link pyramids have been struggling now for a good year or so, and I know some sites are still surviving on them, but it's becoming less and less of an effective way to market your site. The big problems really, though, for the long term is that they offer little or no value to the reader. Unless these have good content on them, are unique, then they really don't offer a lot of value. They don't offer a lot of click-through. What you want is for each link here in this first tier to actually be a portal for more visitors. So not only are you getting visitors from Google, you're getting visitors directly from here. These that are capable of ranking in their own right, of drawing traffic in their own right because they're good. And when traffic arrives at them, any links or promotion on these may well lead to your money site. With trash linking, that doesn't happen. Last one is, so they offer no value to the reader, they don't promote click-through. Links are there for SERPs only and not for people. Links should also be for people. Just going to show you this. Introducing the link mesh or powered node linking solution. It isn't completely mine, it's an adaptation of something that's been around for a while. What you do is you create a number of profiles. Now this is just one profile, you create more than one, you may create 10, you may create 30. Very unlikely you'd create hundreds in one go at least anyway. You may create a couple of dozen, that would probably be your top. And a profile is where perhaps you have a WordPress.com site or a Tumblr or whatever going on, a blogger. Back in the day, you'd perhaps use Jimdo and LiveJournal, whatever else you'd use, even use wikis. But you wouldn't just post to it once with a link and leave it. You'd create a proper profile on there with a username and perhaps a bio. And your first post wouldn't even have a self-promotional link in it. You'd post to it often, and you would link outwards from that to non-competing broad niche sites, authority sites, and your own URLs sometimes. And this should be plural, really. It should be URLs. Okay, non-competing broad niche site. I'll give you an example. Say you're in dog training, and what you wouldn't do, a competing dog site would be another dog training site. A non-competing broad niche site may be a dog food site, a dog breeding site, dog competition sites, best in shows, crufts, whatever else is going on, that isn't actually competing with you, but is definitely going to be of interest to roughly the same group of people. An authority site is a news site like BBC, like CNN, like whatever else is out there, a site which is already PR 7, 8 or 9 for dogs that everybody goes to, the Dog Association of Great Britain, US Dog Lovers Club or whatever it is. It's an authority site in your niche. So you link out where appropriate to these other sites, non-competing broad niche sites and authority sites, and of course to your own landing URLs, which you should have more than one these days, really. Single landing URL sites are very, very hard to rank these days. So say you had a dog training site, you may have a dog training site, you may say, right, let's have a puppy training page, a dog training page, older dogs, which can be a thing, kennel training and all that kind of kennel training of dogs. You probably find 5 or 6 landing pages within that. You could write articles, get some multimedia done to hit different aspects, real sub-niches, if you like, of your particular sub-niche. Notice here that you're also looking to get some links from the authority sites and for the non-competing broad niche sites. Now these are very hard to automate, and in fact you can't. While you can automate building this and you can automate linking out to here, what you need to do is probably by hand get some links from CNN, from the Kennel Club, from the Dog Lovers Society of the US or whatever, and also from non-competing broad niche sites. So which means going by hand, perhaps commenting on them, perhaps submitting articles to them, making relationships with the people on these sites. You don't need thousands. You're thinking in terms of probably a single figure number of these per month, and perhaps building up to 50, 60, 70 within the case of a year. In terms of number of hours, if it takes you more than half hour to get a link, you're doing it wrong. If you're doing it by hand. So it's something you maybe do for an hour a week per site that you did, and gradually build up over time. This isn't a cash and grab. This isn't a smash and grab web technique. This isn't the technique that you'd use for churn and burn sites. This is a technique for sites that you want to be there in 10 years, hopefully. I think the next one is the same as this, yeah. So, advantage of the link mesh system. It's an unselfish linking system. Association with the authority sites and those offering complementary products or services have been shown to provide service value for your link profiles. Co-citation means unselfish linking. So you're linking out to other sites that offer value to your readers. Google likes unselfish. It is very hard for bots or spiders from the search engines to follow a trail and see self-promotion. If there are 3 links on an individual page within this profile, an individual URL, and you've got one link to there, one link to there, one link to there, and quite a lot of these individual pages in a profile don't even link to your site at all, it's going to take a lot more analysis for Google to work out who the beneficiary is. Here it's obvious, all links point to it. Here it's, back up here, it's obvious, all links point to it. Here it's not obvious at all. It's not only is it not obvious, I don't think it's something Google would be interested in doing, because you're actually offering value. You're using better quality content. You're not being so selfish. It's something that will provide value over time as long as you take enough care over your content. Creates opportunities for relationships with others in your broad niche, which is excellent as well. If you're linking out to people in your broad niche, there's the dog kenneling sites or whatever, if you happen to be in that niche, that market, then at some point, almost definitely, over a period of few months or years, some of them will reciprocate, or you'll get a relationship with other people in your broad niche, which is beneficial in every sense of the word. I now run 4 or 5 different markets, SEO being the last one I joined sort of a few years ago, my golfing holidays being a huge one of mine, but there are others. There's vehicle rentals as well, and there's a couple of others that I do. And it's very easy to run those, and on a couple of hours work a week, keeping these relationships going, keeping the sites up to date, getting a lot of user content in. So this isn't a case of putting so much work into one site, putting all your eggs in one basket. You can still diversify, because once you've got these sites up and running, you perhaps spend 3 months on one site getting up and running, get some momentum, then move to a second site, and it's just a case of then keeping the plate spinning. You can have 4 or 5 sites, and if ever a niche gets unpopular or a site gets hit, you've still got most of your income, most of your business enterprise still going and earning you cash. You have complete control over your profiles, what you post, when you post it, and what it links to. So you have complete control over all of this. You decide what it goes, you decide what these sites are, you decide what these sites are, how often you link to there. You decide when you go to these sites and look for links directly from them as well. You've got complete control. A lot of the cheaper SEO solutions just press a button, and although you can set some basic criteria, they don't offer you the absolute control. I want this article on this site on this date, and I want to link it to these 3 different places. And if you even if it is slightly possible with some of them to really micromanage each individual link, they're not set up with things like SE Nuke and Ultimate Daemon are to let you do that really simply. SE Nuke and Ultimate Daemon are much further down the chain of being content management systems. They're much closer to the finished product. They're not, but because they're professionally built, they're almost there as far as content management system goes, and so they're the best fit at the moment to do these tasks. They reduce the likelihood of spam-looking profiles getting deleted by the site owners. Your first battle, whenever you create a link ring or a profile or whatever, is to get it accepted by the site owner, is to get your account accepted, to get your first article accepted, to get your first article with a link accepted without getting your account deleted, and then not to post that often with that much spammy links, with that crappier content that they end up deleting your site anyway. Your first fight isn't with Google or any of the search engines. Your first battle is to survive on the third-party sites you're putting your content on. And to do that, you need to provide decent content. You need to give fair amount of effort towards the content, and not to spam too many links, and not to be too selfish. This also, you're always going to lose the odd link here or there. Perhaps the site goes bust, perhaps they just want to close for new members. There's no guarantees anywhere, but this is a much more successful way of going about it. So over the period of the next sort of week or two, I'm going to be going into this in more detail. I'm going to be using Ultimate Daemon because this site is primarily an Ultimate Daemon site, but please understand this, you can do this with SE Nuke just as well, and there may be some new tools coming out in the next sort of 18 months that are also just as good at doing this. What I'm hoping is that in the next year or two, tools that are specifically written or adapted to be primarily content management tools come out. Yes, it is about getting a link on there, but it's really about getting you still need a link, because links to perform their primary function is to get a visitor from one site to another, and you're just not going to get away from that. But the primary function is to provide value for visitors, to build up profiles that have value, don't get deleted, that Google loves, that your visitors love, and provide, as well as SERP benefit, provide direct traffic benefit for you. That's what it's all about. That's what the That's what the aim of this is. It's not as quick as doing crash and burn sites, churn and burn sites. You can still chuck one of those up in a couple of days and accept that it will get deleted or de-indexed, 3-4 months down the line. Yep, this isn't the answer for you guys that want to do that. But for you guys that want to have a long-term success, and perhaps just have 5 or 6 sites that you're going to put a fair bit more effort into, but each site gets 3 or 4 hours worth of love a week, then this is probably the better way for you to go. Okay, so we'll get into that soon. So I've just passed the quarter of an hour mark now, so we'll be going into that over the next week or two throughout sort of spring and summer of 2014 here on ultimatedemon2.com. Scritty signing off.